Yo, fresh out the oven, ready to run. What's hot this week at Jeff's Bagel Run? Jeff and Aaron bring the fun. It's the weekly run, let's get it. The weekly run from Jeff's Bagel Run.
Welcome to the weekly run. I'm Jeff.
I'm Aaron.
And we're talking about what's hot at Jeff's Bagel Run. And Aaron, this week I wanted to talk about our regulars.
I love our regulars.
You gotta love your regulars. If you don't love your regulars, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you need to make them all regulars. But that's easier said than done.
It is easier said than done. And, the biggest players in the space are talking about service and talking about operational execution as a reason for why sales are dropping. McDonald's and Sweetgreen both reported earnings in the last week, and both indicated traffic and sales were down, primarily because of dips in operation, which resulted in service gaps.
But that's a pretty bold statement from certainly a brand like McDonald's what is McDonald's if not the system, right? That's sort of their entire legacy is really built around, that having a system, having it be consistent. So curious that's quite a statement for them to make, to pin any sort of ebb and flow on operations specifically, at least in my mind.
Yeah, they specifically said that our restaurant teams were overwhelmed by too many deployments within the quarter, which led to less efficient restaurant operations. And that impacted customer service
Deployments being
times.
like LTOs, new menu items.
I think it was new menu items. They were pretty aggressive with their menu innovation over the last quarter, and they put a lot of stuff on the store teams, I think. And he also indicated that they also reduced some of the value items that they carry. So I think there was a kind of a double whammy there. But to your point, McDonald's kind of built the idea of efficiency in a restaurant operation. And here they are saying that this is the difference maker in us making sales or missing sales quarter over quarter. That's bold.
Which it's bold, and it also really, I think, speaks to that link between that in-store operations and sales, which again, I don't think we're breaking any new ground here by saying that. My hot take on that is, as a classic example of something that I think we say as an industry, we know as an industry to be true, but then don't always take a lot of action around it. We don't do things that indicate that we do understand that fact and that causality, right? Like we'll say it and then we'll go and disrupt operations or let things drop and just be like, sales will fix it, right? It's like, well, no, there's a real causal link there, and customers will ebb and flow with your business around that. I know we talk about it a lot at JBR.
Yeah, we have dedicated hours and hours and hours of discussion amongst the leadership team on how to improve and streamline operations, how to deliver on operations to improve four-wall performance. We start there in many respects. Even I think with your technology team, you're looking at ways to make the processes in the stores more efficient for the teams so that they can do more guest engagement.
Which I think is an important piece of it. And we talk about this sometimes with new franchisees as well, around just this notion of engagement, like actual engagement, not just the literals of take your order, I'll hand you your bag, but how you can kind of go to that next level of that. And I think it's easy to confuse efficiency with experience. And you certainly look at some of these bigger brands that traditionally have optimized for efficiency, thinking that a lot of customers, and there probably was a time when this was true, that I had a great experience if I had a fast experience or an easy experience, or, you could call it efficient, but it's like, really it's speed. How fast and painlessly can I get this service, this food, whatever. And I think that that's changing. If that was sort of the measure for our generation, I don't think that's the measure of experience anymore. I think people are willing to invest a little bit more time and expect a little bit more from the in-store engagement than just, was it fast?
Yeah, I think speed is a part of the everyday culture, at least in the quick service restaurant, fast casual space. Like there is a level of efficiency you expect. We're not talking about a full service dining experience where a lunch ticket time
Correct.
could run, 18 to 22 minutes. We're talking about a quick service restaurant where, Jeff's Bagel Run, we were looking at like 3-minute ticket times. We were trying to turn people over as fast as possible because there's nothing worse than waiting in the line for something. And so how quickly can we get through that? But that said, there is this expectation for engagement. Welcome in. Is this your first time visiting? Or welcome back, Aaron. Rosemary salt today, right? There is an expectation that we have with our teams. And I think that engagement, that level of service gives the team the opportunity to go a little long, to exceed a 3-minute ticket time. Or maybe they've made the ticket time and they're just busy chatting it up with the guest and having a great time. And that experience changes the way the guest feels about it, our store.
Totally agree. You said something that I just wanted to sort of highlight on, is that it's about where you're fast and where you're engaged. And I had an experience I'll shout out O-Town, as I love to, but I had an experience in O-Town on the weekend. I just drove down there, and the weekends are always busy. So go and I get in line, and the two groups ahead of me were both first timers. And the staff there Saturday morning was great. I heard exactly what I was supposed to hear, and knowing, how we train and with the ops teams, all the welcomes and here's what we do, we're scratch made and just the whole spiel. And and in terms of like a quick service in and out, it's a long engagement. It takes a minute for that to happen. But as soon as they sort of moved on, bang, bang, they were like, honestly, the order was almost done by the time the last little bits of the engagement were sort of wrapping up. It felt like, I think it's just choosing where the right moments matter. And I think sometimes that's what, in search of operational efficiency, that's what gets lost.
Yes.
Right? You over optimize and you lose those few moments because it's hard. It's hard to figure out where it counts the most. But I think the brands that do it the best find those brand moments, and that's where they don't compromise.
I believe that taking a few extra minutes to have a conversation with a person who clearly wants to have a conversation with you at the register is okay. You have to be vigilant of nonverbal cues. You have to understand a little bit of like social back and forth. Maybe that person doesn't want that dialogue and you got to move faster through it and just take the order and move on. But that person sees that as good service, right? So I think it's really meeting the customers where they're at in that moment. But once you've tendered that total and you're moving into that transactional component of taking someone's money for services, that service needs to move fast. Like that's where it's like bang, 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 get your cream cheese, get your drinks, and then usually that's pretty quick.
Oh yeah. And it was, just as an example. Well, and the funny thing is as I get up there, like my transaction was a quarter of the time. And I will say, as a customer, I could see where somebody might not want to wait through those two things. But if you're hearing a positive engagement, it's kind of hard to get upset. You're waiting, and yes, I know what this place is. I love it. Third time this week I'm here. I don't need to hear the story. You're getting the story. You're preventing me from ordering. I get that. But it's not like just waiting for no reason, right? You kind of have a little bit of a tolerance for the fact of like, this is great. I think you respect what you're hearing in front of you to be like, great, they're having a good experience. Like that, this company and that staffer is put some extra time into making sure they're having a great experience. And it's kind of like you chill out a little bit, right? As somebody who's waiting at that moment.
I often
Whereas at the pickup line, not at all.
Oh no!
Zero chill.
You're just waiting for you're just waiting for your name, Aaron, and you grab your stuff and go.
Exactly. Did you guys ever have like and again, I'm talking about early days, so pre a lot of what we have now. Did you guys ever have a process or an internal? Did you ever try anything that you then rolled back? You're like, that was terrible. like whether it be layout of the store or like we'll have people grab their own stuff here. Like, was there any little thing that you tried? You're like, that was terrible. We should have never done that.
Oh yeah. So in the original location,
thought required.
Yeah, no. In the original, in the original store, if you've never visited the Ocoee location, the POS counter is flipped from from the shape that you see in our existing store. So you have like I don't want to call it like an inverted L. So the guest is sort of in the like middle of the register island. So the like where the L comes together, they kind of sit in the corner. Visually, I don't know if this is making sense, but in our new stores, you end up with this. The team is in the middle, right? You have like the L shape around the kitchen. Does that make sense? Am I explaining this, or should I start over?
I think so.
I guess my point is when you walked into Ocoee in the early days, we had to make a decision on where the transaction started. Did it start with bagels or did it start with the other stuff? And the other stuff was like cream cheese, which was at that time, it used to be prepackaged. It was in a cooler. There was bottled beverages,
I remember
coffee
that.
station. Yeah. So it was kind of, you had to make a choice. And what we determined was that the best thing to do was for the customer to select all their bagels, and then everything kind of moved down to the end. And at the end of the transaction, right at the register, you had the cooler, and whoever was on the cashier could say, okay, here's our cream cheese choices. You can pick one, and then be able to ring it up really fast. Because we didn't even track which bagels we were selling back then. It was just like, oh, how many did you get? 6,
Bagel.
12, bagel. Yeah.
It's very easy to ring up.
It was so easy. So it didn't matter what was in that bag. All that mattered was the count. Like, oh, you got 6, you got 8, you got 12, whatever. And then it's like, oh, cream cheeses are right there. Grab the ones you want.
Should have just sold them by the pound because it had a scale right there.
Like Menchie's. Oh, put another one in.
Oh, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like being at the grocery store.
Did you see that meme that a guy walks in and he says, I need to put $20 on pump 2? And the girl like leans over and she says, sir, this is a soft serve ice cream place. He goes, I know. And then you see him underneath it, just like cranking down on it right into his mouth. It's so funny. That was great. But yeah, I think the flow of customers and like how that interaction took place was something that took us a little bit to figure out, like operationally. Yeah. And as we added more things to that cooler, it was plain and chive and onion at one point is all the cream cheese we had.
Yeah.
Cold brew was the only coffee option. So there wasn't a lot of choice. And so that interaction could be fast. And then as soon as it became like, oh, I don't know. And they're looking at the cooler and there's like 8 cream cheeses and we got apple juice and orange juice and all this other stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, like how do we move these people through the line faster? Because they're literally clogging this up, like at the register. So I think the transition there was something that we worked on. I mean, we did a lot of that, like especially with bake flow. And like that was for us, I mean, when I was hand rolling the dough, we would take that morning bake, knock it out, fill the rack, and then start rolling dough because I was the only person. And then as we built a team and other people were doing the task, we realized we could stretch that bake out. Like I could have somebody baking later into the day while I was rolling dough. And so that's where we've ended up in this kind of landed now where we are with, we bake throughout the day because we can do that task simultaneously. We can roll dough for the next day and still boil and bake throughout the day for today's guest. So, and that drove sales. I mean, like in your mind as like a business owner, you're like, I need to reduce my expenses. I don't want to hire somebody to do a job that I can do. I can roll the dough. I'll just bake all the bagels and then roll the dough. And then turns out, well, if you bake bagels all day long and they're hot, people buy more.
So I never knew that. I never knew that that was part of the history that I always thought it was more intentional. But it was really just sort of, it sounds like it's more of a happy accident. I mean, obviously the sales aligned to like, you capitalized on that quickly once you saw it, but like, it was more of a function of, hey, this other role can go slower and sort of spread it out. Like I say, because I have parallelism now. Like I can do 2 things versus like, hey, I'm going to bake everything, complete that task.
Start the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
It was actually my friend George who came in.
George.
You know George came in the shop one day, and for whatever reason, we were just like slower on the bake. I don't know, and he sleeps in, so it's like 10:30. He rolls in, and he gets a hot bagel. He's like, "Oh man, this is ridiculous!" And then, like, of course, the next like couple days later after that, it wasn't like it wasn't oven hot because he tried to time it. He's like, I came the same. George is unique in that respect that he would specifically show up at the same time. Like I showed up again at 10:13. Why was it not hot this time? And so he just kept saying, he's like, if you could send me an alert of when my sesame bagel was hot, I would love that. Send me a hot alert. And so, yeah, he's always talking
So
about
ahead of
that.
his time.
And, he's like, I think you really should spread the bake out. And we're like, yeah, that I think we could do that now because we have a baker that's not Jeff. Like there's someone back there that can do it. Like we've trained someone, they understand the standards, expectations. And so I think that really gave us an opportunity to explore this idea of like, we can be more just in time. We can get really close and, it's become the whole model.
But that's a great sort of highlight of the fact of sort of being experience first in the mindset, because you stumbled not on an optimization, but on an experience win, because like you said, now you've got two people working sort of in tandem. Now, one job got a little easier, I guess, just because you're not like trying to crunch and like do a whole day's worth in the morning. But the other option you could have just had is like, I'll roll, you bake as fast as you can, finish it, get off the clock.
Yeah.
I'll keep rolling, or we'll both be done early. Like there's an optimization there that would have been an actual optimization, but you guys chose the experience instead. I mean, thank goodness you did. But it's a highlight of sort of like having the right mindset when you came in.
It was always about the experience. And from our transition from baking at home to baking in a store, the experience became like, don't sleep in. Like I would be on the counter up front, rolling dough. It's literally 9:15. We've been open for 2.5 hours. I've got no bagel left. Like done. It's like sold out. 9:15, 2 hours, like 80 dozen. Because we'd have this like line and the don't sleep in came from this idea of like, haha, like, don't sleep in, because guests would be like, oh man, I slept in, can't come in. So it was more of like if you aren't in the line, you're going to miss it, right? And then we started hiring more people and we expanded our capacity and we started doing all this stuff and suddenly we had more bagels. And instead of selling out at 9:15, we're selling out at like 10:30. And then we're selling out at 11:30. And then we're making it to like the afternoon. And so if I was waiting to roll the dough when the bake was done, we got to a point where the bake wasn't done. We always had dough available. We always had product for our guests to buy because that's why you're in business. Like you want to meet the demand and meet the guests' needs. I think part of that also came in tandem with this idea of like increasing capacity and really growing the amount of bagels we make. Because it was fine to do 80 dozen or 90 dozen. But when we got to the point where we could do 120, now it's like routinely 220 on a Saturday or a Sunday, for most stores from a prep perspective. And, they'll sell through like a good majority, 80% maybe of those, 90% of those. So it's crazy. It's an insane thought to look back and be like, oh yeah, our capacity was like 96 dozen in the past. Like, how is that real? Like, what did we even do? Like, what was that? What did that look like? And then I remembered we hand rolled all that dough.
Well, it highlights the importance of the experience. And I'll throw out another fact that sort of underpins that a little bit, in that when we look at our customer data, I've always found this fascinating, but when we look at our customer data across all of our stores, a COE always looks different. So your guys' store, the first store, always looks different in that the customers behave differently. They show up earlier. They generally buy in larger quantities. Same total, actually. I mean, and just to be clear for those that don't know all the math that Jeff and I know, a COE is not like the number one volume store or anything like that. Obviously, one of our top stores, but not even threatening to be like the highest volume store. It was in the early days, not anymore. There's so many stores that have come along and just,
better real estate,
as well.
Bigger bigger space
Correct.
to work in. Yeah, there's so many reasons why, but yeah.
But what's interesting is that they come in way earlier and they buy, generally a COE always is very high in like half dozens and full dozens when people order. And when you look back, you realize it's because that initial experience has just stuck and it's stayed. And people still come in early because they don't want, they still don't want to sleep in. They don't there's no risk of bagels running out. Daniel would never let bagels run out
No.
at a Koei. That's not even humanly possible anymore. But the customer base still behaves that way because that was the experience that not only they were sort of trained on a little bit just because that's what it was, but I think it's also part of the culture of a Koei. It's the experience that they're used to. It's the experience that they bought into and they like, and so they keep doing it. Even though I think all of them know I don't have to get there at 9:30 anymore. I could easily roll in at 11:30 and get everything I want.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't changed, and I've always sort of found that funny in that it really highlights the fact that I think if that's how you build regulars, that's how you build experience is, you give some people something that they want and they will commit to it and they will stick with it and they'll enjoy it and that'll be a part of their life.
It really makes me think about how culture is created. It's not
with
something...
customers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
We talk a lot about in store, but we don't talk as an industry enough about how do you create culture with customers?
And it's about routine. It's about the things that become important to them, and it's getting there early, getting their bagels. I've been in the store over the last 10 days, I've been in the store probably 6 times working either early bake or supporting. Last Saturday popped in, and I think I ran into so many of our customers that have been a part of the journey from the early days, and they did exactly that. They had a bag full of 12 and some cream cheeses and stocking up for the week. And it's just part of the...
You don't have to.
You come every day.
No need. You come every day.
Come every day. Get a hot one. Yeah.
But that was the, I haven't looked at these numbers recently, but I'd be curious to see how your, what was it? Mondays, right? I'm curious to see how a Koei's Mondays have recovered because way back in the day, it was Monday, right? That you guys were not open.
We were closed Monday and Tuesday. And Monday was a really slow day. I mean, I had this whole hypothesis that why would I open 7 days a week if I don't meet capacity for my business on Wednesday and Thursday? When I can sell out on a Thursday, then I'll open on Tuesday. I'll make more. It's not true. It's not how it works. And Mondays are great now. It's a busy day.
But I wonder how many people are still just in there, those OG customers they just don't think to come in on Monday because it was never open.
I remember in the first 6 months that we were doing it, I would see people coming oh, I'm so glad you're open. I'm we open on Monday and Tuesdays for 6-8 months now. They're oh, no way. And yeah, I think they built this routine where they would come on a Wednesday or Thursday, they would stock up or they would
stock up 100%.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it would be really interesting to see if we could pull data on our Monday and Tuesday guests newer than Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
What the mix is.
Yeah. What's the mix of new versus original? And I guess originals, we'd have to pin them down to that window of time when we were only open, for 5 days a week. But that's an interesting, it took a while. It takes a while to change people's behaviors and routines though. It's really interesting to see the way people work and the way that they want to go about their life in this world, right?
So agreed. And circling back to sort of your initial point with, this earnings call from McDonald's is what I find interesting about that is, and I don't want to throw shade or anything like that, but I feel like the McDonald's experience is understood. Let's just put it that way. I think most people know what they're getting with McDonald's. They're they know what that experience is. It's been pretty standardized. What do you think? What do you think they're doing for it to dip? What? Obviously, you talked a little bit about some of the operational, just making things harder in store. But is it that, or do you think that the whole store experience is changing, and customers are hey, it's not that. You know what I mean? How much of it is good versus bad? This is a great experience versus just a whatever experience. And how much of it is not quite a quality measure and more what's going on here? This isn't the same place. You know what I mean? It could be the same level of experience, but different. And that different is what's bad versus a drop in quality.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. a couple of things come that I think about with McDonald's is they do a lot of business through drive-through. And I'd have to look at the actual earning report. I just looked at the kind of notes. The CEO stated that there was an additional labor component added to manage the new refreshers and dirty sodas. So I could think about a barista making a new drink. It takes time for them to learn the recipe, to memorize
Oh
it,
yeah.
to build efficiency. And so I would think that probably in this first quarter, there probably was legitimately a slowdown in actual service. And that guest, I don't think, understands that slowdown was happening because there were new items added. They just pulled up to the window and their food wasn't ready and they waited a little longer and now they were late for work, or now they were late to pick up their kid, or their kid's screaming in the back, whatever, who knows what the reason was. But I think that probably was a direct impact from a new operational component, slower drinks or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, those beverage fountain machines, when they put the medium cup underneath it and push medium, it runs to fill specifically perfectly on a medium cup. It's like, you don't have to look at it. You just put the cup, you push the button, you do the next thing, and then you go back and pass the cup along. It's fascinating.
I think that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about where we sit today. And it's always a journey, but our system is more resilient to changes like that, mainly because it's less overall optimized. You really can't compete with these machines that have spent decades and decades perfecting, with tons of resources perfecting them. But that's kind of what's nice about being a younger brand, still figuring things out, still building things. And, in that phase is that, I mean, we've done the LTO calendar that you and marketing put out still makes my head spin. I only have to follow it along just so I'm aware of what's out there. I have no active role in this. And I feel like it's a full-time job just to keep track of all the menu innovation. But whenever I'm in store, when we roll things out, the store teams are not phased. It's like, oh, we do cold foam now. There's a whole process for that. It's like a 2-step process. Like, great. Where do I put stuff? Yeah. It's just, they're really resilient to things. And I think part of that is because we're still at that stage where it's an active craft for a lot of our staff. I would make an equivalent argument that I don't know, it's probably unfounded, but I would bet like a Starbucks or like a Dutch Brothers would handle, some drink variation pretty well. I mean, those are they're crafting a large menu, a lot of different things, a changing menu. So there's some advantages to being a little less efficient and less rigid.
Oh, it kind of makes me want to go back now to see the first quarter that McDonald's introduced their coffee program that was beyond just black coffee, where they had espresso and frappuccinos in the store.
Oh yeah.
I bet you there was the same type of operational efficiency dip there. Yeah, I think you're right. There's something to that. Maybe this is the last point, because I just think it made so much sense to me. In the Sweet Green notes, the CEO had mentioned that part of their challenges was they need to be operationally ready, and they specifically stated rush ready. They do a ton of business at lunchtime, and so if they didn't have everything prepped and peaked and ready to go, and I think about how our systems build for our teams to be rush ready, and that bake process, and as we're dropping these bakes and it's building and building, it's kind of neat to see how we've tried to support the teams with systems that create a mechanism for them to be ready for the business.
100%. And as you say that, I just think about the fact that is the business. It's not a mode. Our stores have, it's different for each store. We just talked about Ocoee's generally an hour earlier than everybody else, but the shape of the day is the same. The flow of a day at a Jeff's Bagel Run is very clear. And the early out, the rush hours, there's a very big difference between volume at peak hours to the other side of the day. And that's just part of life.
Yeah.
Like the whole system has to be built around that.
Yeah. When I talk to franchisees about our like AUVs in our stores and the number of hours that we operate, like we're a 1-shift model operating from 6:30 till 2 every day. And we average like maybe 1.2 million in our store, right? The reality is that you're doing the majority of that 1.2 between like 7 and 11.
Yeah.
Super compressed, giving you like a rush feeling all the time. It's like go, 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 and then it stops. It's really interesting. Yeah.
But it's, I enjoy seeing the cadence in stores because, yes, maybe at peak, right? Like that time frame on a Saturday, it truly feels like a rush, but and that's when it's like, okay, this is a top line day. This is like one of our best. It's up there with our best days. But in general, stores don't really. I don't think stores would call it a rush.
No,
it's the morning.
It's just the morning.
It's the morning versus the afternoon. Like that's their shift. They come in and they've got their things, and the day is built around that service model and being ready at that moment to serve that way at that moment. And I will say this as a compliment to our stores. We don't do volume-based ticket times. So like,
Yeah.
We expect our stores to deliver that 3-minute ticket with a store full of people or one person in line that just sort of, snuck in the last 30 minutes of the shift. It's the same expectation. And our stores do it. They do it. Just put it in blunt.
Yeah. Like 85+% of the time. Yeah. They nail it.
Which is incredible.
Yeah. From a data side for you, you must love seeing that like super consistent bell curve though. Like you just got to shift it in the time window.
It's great.
So
it's great.
easy.
It's well, I had a conversation. It's kind of going back to that other interview that I was saying about sort of restaurant tech, and we were talking about the holy grail is prediction. Everybody wants if you could predict things and things like your volume predictions and the lottery would all be great if we just knew what the future is going to hold at every minute. But what you end up encountering is like there's a theoretical limit of just how stable your sales are. And when you do the things that we do and you compress that service window down and to a couple hours of the day, and that's your whole day, and kind of going back to the conversation we were talking about experience, like everything has to be geared towards that moment to provide the best experience that you can, but also acknowledging that like there's a limit that you just can't predict. And it's like for us, we, maybe the peak moves by 15 minutes or 30 minutes, which in terms of like customer behavior is nothing. That's sort of in the noise. But when you're trying to hit that sweet spot of 2 hours of peak experience, something shifting, 20 customers shifting 15 minutes could change the whole morning. So the team's got to be ready. The systems and the processes have to be ready. And we spend so much time focusing on that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's even in the stores, the teams become so used to when the business pattern is about to start that they'll manage breaks and lunch periods around it. The bakers are gearing up at different times. It's a really interesting dance to watch from a distance.
It is. And from a data perspective, that's what to your earlier point, that's what I love so much about it, because it feels not even sensible to be trying to analyze the things that we're analyzing. Like, what if 20 customers, show up 15 minutes later and the little bump is here versus here. I'm not talking about days, or I'm not even talking about hours. I'm talking about like 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I just think to myself, like, when I say I'm going to go out and pick up bagels in the morning, I'm not accurate in my own life to 15 minutes. I mean, who knows? Maybe, there's a bicycle in front of my car. I got to move the bike. It takes a couple of minutes.
Somebody slept in, so you got it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I can't find my shoes. There's so many things that factor in that this challenge and just this effort to try and perfect it is a fun journey. I'll say that it's a fun journey.
It is,
and I think we've done some neat things in that arena. Love to see how stores react with it, and it's wild.
Well, we're definitely going to be put to the test this week in a lot of markets. Kids are back in school, so people are building their routines again. And stores, the business over the last 10 days has definitely ticked up. I think people are starting to come out of their summer habits and routines and build back into that school routine. And it's definitely coming. The guests are on their way back to getting back in your bell curve.
Hey, we've got a new College Town store that is ready to go. So I can't wait to see what happens there on moving day.
Move-in weekend. It's yeah, I'll be up there. I'm actually moving Jack back up, so I'll pop in on Friday.
Oh, you are? That's
Friday.
right.
Yeah, Jack's going back up on Friday, so we'll see.
Is it this weekend?
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, it's like Friday, tomorrow. So
wow,
it's go time. I know. Well, this has been a fun conversation, Aaron. I think it's interesting. I don't know if anybody else will think it is, but I've enjoyed it. Bake fresh, bring joy, build community, and we'll talk to you again next week. Bye.
Yo, fresh out the oven, ready to run. What's hot this week at Jeff's Bagel Run? Jeff and Aaron bring the fun. It's the weekly run, let's get it. The weekly run from Jeff's Bagel Run.